So I started today waking up at the ungodly time of 11:30 a.m. I immediately fell asleep afterwards because it was too bright for my eyes. Once I decided to finally wake up, I did the normal morning routine of waking up and immediately having to use the bathroom. While using the bathroom, I had a thought.
Hey, I should make the YouTube video I've been procrastinating to make for way too long.
So, after procrastinating playing some casual Overwatch,
Victory! Defeat!
I did. I've been struggling to think of some ideas for the past few months, and after about 100 failed video idea attempts, I decided that because I'm really uncreative, I'm going to do what a proper YouTuber should and start with redesigning my old terrible logo and making a matching channel banner to make me look like a professional. Oh, how could I forget? My name is MSR. That's obviously not my name, but I'm not trying to have creepy people come to my door. You know how to read, so you can obviously tell what that means by reading the name of my channel, so I don't feel like explaining. Trust me, I know this first video is a little simple, but I really wanted to make a video to see how everyone would like it. Plus, I didn't have any better ideas, so fight me. These videos will be getting much better, and projects will be getting much more intricate in the future. So, now on to the thing you actually clicked this video for. Gotta get to 10 minutes, you know. What I plan for this video is to firstly redo my old logo in
3D.
so that I can have more control and a better result. And secondly, to create a channel banner that matches really well. So, like all the children who wanted to design a logo for their social media, the logo was originally designed in a cheap Photoshop alternative I used because I refused to pay for Photoshop at the time. Money, you know. I wanted to have a logo that was easy on the eyes and use very little colors because that's just my preference. When designing it, I started with a black and white theme, but it really needed something else to pop out. So the main things I wanted to accomplish with the logo redesign was not changing very much when it came to the overall shape and composition, but to make sure that I can get the logo centered as I wanted originally, and to make the colors more accurate to what I had originally intended. I had also wanted to fix the two small circles that were intersecting with the larger outer circle, because it didn't bother me at the time, but over time I really started to hate it, so I wanted to fix it. I did the initial modeling in Fusion 360, my program of choice and the one I have the most experience in. It is a parametric 3D modeling software, which is, through the power of Google, parametric modeling is a modeling process with the ability to change the shape of model geometry as soon as the dimension value is modified. Parametric modeling is implemented through the design computer programming code, such as a script, to define the dimension of the shape and the model. It is mainly made for product design and simulation, but I like to use it for the majority of my 3D modeling because I'm not only used to the workflow, but I like how Fusion allows you to build parts with sketches, making it kinda like a drawing program. I started by designing the initial shape of the logo using only one sketch for simplicity's sake. When creating a sketch normally in Fusion 360, you need to do something called dimensioning, where you tell Fusion the real life size of the object you are making. I don't have any real intention to actually make this object, so I didn't add any dimension to the sketches, which will allow me to control the size of the sketch based on how the overall object looks. I didn't like the original font on the logo, so I decided to go with a more basic font to make it more simple. After I completed the sketch, I went on to extruding all of the individual objects into new bodies so that the logo could be broken into different colors. Fusion 360 is a little tricky when extruding multiple bodies together because it combines any bodies that are touching. So for any extrusions that are going to touch but need to be individual, I did a new separate extrusion. Even though this is going to be a 2D logo visually, I wanted to add a bit of thickness to certain areas so that when I'm going to do the renders, there's a bit of depth and shading to the image. Once I was done modeling the logo, I exported each body as an individual STL file. This was to make sure that each body I made was not combined to make adding materials a lot easier. This is a file format that stores information about your 3D model. Again, consulting our Google overlords, the format represents the raw surface of a model with small triangles. The more complex and detailed the structure is, the more triangles will be used to represent the model. The reason I wanted to do this is because the program I wanted to render this object is a program called Blender, which is a more artistic focused 3D modeling software made for a whole bunch of things, including simulation, animation, rendering, texturing, and a whole lot more. It does not natively support the format I would prefer, however, called STEP, which is the normal format that models made in a CAD software like Fusion 360 use. It breaks down the model in a different way, allowing the parts to be separated when in one file. Anyway, now that you're sufficiently bored, enough with the nerd talk, let's get to the video. To do the colors and the final rendering, I decided to use the aforementioned Blender. I decided to use Blender because it has a much more comprehensive and powerful rendering engine, allowing for much more control over the final result. Fusion 360 has a nice rendering engine, and for many applications it's good to use, especially with the cloud rendering. However, for my case, I really wanted more control over the final image, and I just preferred Blender for this case in general. I do not have as much experience in Blender though, so don't roast me too hard on my Blender skills. When I first tried to save the logo as an STL, I tried to get around having to save each individual one by saving the whole thing as an STL and using Blender to separate the model into pieces. When I imported the combined STL, I figured out it wouldn't be that easy. Since I was too lazy to try to find an alternative, I decided to save them individually. Once I imported all the separated files into Blender, all I needed to do was group them up in a collection for organization's sake. They were much bigger than the camera and the rest of the scene because I did not dimension in the beginning, so all I needed to do was scale the logo to a reasonable size. I wanted to keep a similar color palette to my old logo, so I looked at the reference photo and chose colors that were similar to the original. When I looked at the rendered view, the image was quite dark. This was due to me not adding any lighting, so I set up a 3-point lighting system and added a sunlight behind the camera. I wanted to use a white background for the logo because I like the white ring it made around my profile picture when cropping the image for uploading to my channel. Before I started the render, I set my aspect ratio to make sure the image was 800 by 800, and I started the render. Once it was finished, I added a denoise modifier to remove the little bit of noise in the image. This is due to Blender's rendering engine called Cycles, which uses something similar to the magical ray tracing. It's not exactly the same as ray tracing, as I found out after having a consult with the overlords. However, it uses the same principle of tracing the path of light for each pixel to create realistic lighting. The main difference is that path tracing will create a ton more paths than ray tracing. I wasn't recording when I did the last step, but the image looked too dark, which made it harder to see when I applied it to my profile, and it made it look flat, so I put the image into Photoshop and increased the brightness and contrast just a bit, and the final image came out good in my opinion. Next, the channel banner. This was much simpler because while I did have to design a new idea for the banner from scratch instead of using one of my existing designs, I'd already had an idea of what I wanted to do, so I started working on the banner in Fusion 360. Because I already went into the process last time, and I know you're probably bored by now, I'm going to speed through this section. I looked online for the YouTube banner size and got a template for the size so that I could make sure that the aspect ratio of the image was correct, since I couldn't change it in Fusion 360. I used the insert canvas function to use my image as a reference and started designing the logo. I had done a previous attempt, and as I was finishing up and uploading the image to YouTube, I noticed that the way YouTube crops images was going to make it so that my text was too large for mobile devices and it wouldn't fit properly. I didn't know about this until it was already uploading the image, so I had to scratch my previous attempt to make sure that this video is not half finished. I went through the same process of designing the logo for the banner once I moved it into Blender. I had to do a few attempts to make sure that the banner was placed in the correct view of the camera, and I decided to use a darker background to match the black background of the logo. On my first attempt at the banner, I added a brown border and some gears to the edges of the logo. I had originally thought that this would break up the logo better and add a bit of variation. After I'd gotten to the final stage and uploaded the image to my channel, I had found out that YouTube has a specific size for the text on the channel banner so that when on different devices, the text won't be cropped. The cropping basically removed the gears and the brown border unless it was being displayed on a TV, so I decided to scrap them too. I had already been basically finished, so it kind of made me mad that I didn't check in the beginning, but you know it's not like I'm mad or anything. After I fixed that stupid issue, I re-rendered the banner, added the denoise modifier, tweaked the contrast and brightness in Photoshop, and then finally uploaded the image for all to see. So, that's it really. As I'm writing the script, I'm realizing how exceptionally tired I am because it's deathly close to 4 AM and I can't rub my two brain cells together hard enough to come up with a way to end this, so, thanks for watching, I guess. If you liked it, do what you must and like the video. I don't care. Also subscribe. Bye.